here in person. This is our first in-person press conference in well over a year, so I just want to say welcome back to the Whitney. You all are in for an incredible treat today. This is truly a historic show. And I think when you walk in, if you haven't been in already, you will see that this is something that you will experience probably only once in your lifetime, unless you come back multiple times, which I hope you will. So this is our first view of the Jasper Johns Mind Mirror that the Whitney and the Philadelphia Museum organized together. The Whitney and the PMA are honored to be partners in this landmark retrospective, which offers an unprecedented occasion to present a single exhibition. It's a single exhibition in two places. And it provides the space that the demands of an artist like Jasper Johns, who is incredibly prolific and has had a 70-year career. And actually, when you see the numbers of works and the quality of the works, it's hard to believe it all comes out of the mind of a single artist. And you will understand so fully seeing this and then seeing the show at Philadelphia that this man truly deserves the quantity and the quality of the spaces that he has been given. Both the Whitney and the PMA have a rich history with the artist and have had the good fortune of working with Jasper since early in his career. John's work has been an important part of our exhibition programs, our legacies, and our collections. The Whitney has been showing and collecting Johns now for 6 decades. He was first in a Whitney annual in 1959 with his painting Two Flags. That's a long time ago. And subsequently, we did a 1977 survey of his work, and he's been showcased in more than 60 exhibitions. And we're very proud because we have now more than 200 works in the collection by Johns. And when you come to see that opening wall of the exhibition of prints, I think we own almost every one except for maybe 2 or 3, Scott. Is that what it is? How many? 2 as of last night. Hey, that's terrific. Anybody else want to get the other 2 for us? Used to be 3. That must have been a good night last night. That's great. The co-curators of this formidable retrospective, Carlos Basualdo, who is the Keith L. and Catherine Sachs Senior Curator of Contemporary Art at the PMA, and Scott Rothkopf, our Deputy Director, and Nancy and Steve Crown, Family Chief Curator, are 2 of the finest curatorial minds of our day, and are both longtime Johns scholars who brought invaluable and unique expertise and insights into this ambitious project. Scott and Carlos pioneered a radical curatorial approach inspired by the artist's fascination with mirroring and doubles. This exhibition in 2 sites employs 10 pairs of related galleries at each museum under such rubrics as first motifs, place, and reveries, designed to illuminate different aspects of John's career. And as Scott points out, and there's also in PMA, there are some bonus galleries too. Comprised of more than 500 works, the retrospective welcomes both reconsideration and discovery. And when you realize that the MoMA retrospective here in New York was almost 25 years ago, there's a whole generation who have never seen Johns in quite this way before. And even if you've seen it in 1994, or was it? 1996, you will be seeing it afresh this time. And I am sure this exhibition will have that feeling for you that it feels so familiar, so many things you knew, and then I think you will find there are so many things that you did not know. And in fact, even now, at the age of 91, Jasper is still working, and working a lot, and there's actually a piece in the show that was done just this year, the last piece. It's been our honor to co-organize this retrospective with the PMA, which will not travel. It is our hope now that people are traveling more readily and visitors will come from across the country and hopefully, eventually, after November 1st, internationally, as the exhibition is on view here until February 13th. My great gratitude goes to my colleague and friend, Timothy Rubb, the director of Philadelphia Art Museum of Art, and his colleagues at the PMA, and a couple of who are here with us today. This has been no easy process. It's hard enough to organize a single exhibition, but to imagine doing 2 exhibitions on 2 sites and having the exhibition postponed and having over 100 loans for the exhibition, this was an enormous task. So I really want to thank Timothy and the entire team of both museums for all the incredible work that they did to make this happen. I want to congratulate Carlos and Scott for realizing such an ambitious and innovative project. It's the result of 5 years of research. And while they brought different things to the table, their ideas brilliantly coalesced to make an epic exhibition worthy of Jasper Johns, an American master. Both curators are here with us today. You're going to hear from them very shortly, and you'll have a chance to hear a little bit more detail about how they conceived the show. I would like to thank Sarah B. Vogelman, exhibition assistant in Philadelphia, who did a lot of the work, along with our curatorial assistant, Lauren Young, here in New York, who they were the two who picked up a lot of the pieces, and God knows there were lots of pieces in the show. And again, I want to thank the entire staff of the Whitney Museum, some of whom are here today, most of whom are in the galleries working. We are nothing if we're not all together. So I wanted to thank our lenders for their trust and willingness to have shippers, registrars, and strangers in their home in the middle of a pandemic. Our colleagues at museums from across the country and abroad, Europe and Asia, went to great pains to make the works available. And believe me, we spent a lot of time begging people to lend works because of fragility and insurance and pandemic. This was no easy task. I want to acknowledge all of the Whitney trustees who encourage us in all we do, and a special shout out to our honorary chair, Leonard Lauder, who has long dreamed of the idea of a Jasper Johns exhibition of this scale and magnificence. He has been a Jasper Johns fan for decades. He has helped us build our collection. He gave 48 works, iconic works of painting, sculpture, prints, and drawings to the collection. And it started with his love affair from when we bought the 3 flags many years ago. I would also like to thank all the individual donors, and you will be spared because you won't have to hear them all today, only a few. But there were many, 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 many. And also foundations and corporations. There's Ken Griffin and Susan Hess, who are our trustees, who were lead sponsors for the museum here. And our friends at Bank of America. I don't know, anybody from Bank of America here today? I'm not sure. Rena DeSisto, who's an amazing woman. You know, this is something, and I said this in Philadelphia the other day. Bank of America has been incredibly supportive of art and contemporary art in particular over the last decade. And they made lots of grants for during the pandemic year. They did not rescind a single grant, to my knowledge, whether the museum was closed, whether they actually used the grant for the purposes it was being used. They turned it over to the institutions to just help tide them over this year, which was really great. Thank goodness the money they gave us for this is going exactly to that purpose. I also want to thank our friends at Delta Airlines, who are our official airlines. No, we're not using them much right now, but hope to soon. Ralph Lauren, who we can always use their clothing no matter when, and they've done some terrific clothing design in conjunction with the show. And finally, I want to offer my thanks to Jasper Johns, who has transformed the history of art in the 20th and 21st century. As you know, or as many of you might know, Johns is a fairly laconic person who does not like to say many words at all, unlike the director you're hearing today. But I do want to give him the last word, which is as clear as it can be. Art is much less important than life, but what a poor life without it. And how much poorer we would be without Jasper Johns' art and without the exhibition Mind Mirror that Carlos and Scott created. So I truly hope you'll see the exhibitions in both places. I was there yesterday and here today, and it really feels like a through the looking glass experience. You don't know which side is up or down, but it is absolutely magnificent, and it really brings it all together in one place. So please get to Philadelphia. And without further ado, the Widener director of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, Timothy Rubb.
Good morning. This is indeed a wonderful moment. I'd like to take up where Adam left off and say, first of all, how thankful we are for the work we've done, particularly our 2 curators, with the artist himself. It's inconceivable that we could have done a show like this without his curious kind of cooperation and patience in this project. But at the end of the day, what matters most is that he was a fellow traveler with our curators as they developed the idea for the show and fleshed it out over the course of several years. And again, without his support, without his interest, and his willingness to work with us and lend many works from his own collection, it would have been a very different project and much diminished, in my opinion. So with that said, I'd like to begin by thanking our partners here at the Whitney Museum of American Art, and to say what a great pleasure it has been for all of us in Philadelphia to collaborate with Adam Weinberg and his staff on this complex and ambitious project, made even more so by the operational and logistical challenges caused by the pandemic. And in point of fact, we were planning to open this show a year ago, almost to the day, to coincide with the completion of a major renovation project at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And of course, those plans came to naught, but we didn't lose sight of the fact that one day we would be able to do this, and again, we stayed the course. And as difficult as it was, I think it was the right decision, and I'm delighted, as delighted as Adam is with the way it turned out. And that we were able to work our way through these together and arrive at this point is really a credit to the collegiality and spirit of cooperation that has marked this partnership from the very beginning. It has resulted, as you have heard, in an unusual exhibition, one show in two discrete parts that mirror each other and are at the same time different. Organized individually, but at the same time collaboratively by two different institutions. Now, looking back about 5 years ago, I remember quite vividly the first conversation that I had with Adam about doing this show. We both agreed, and I think we still do, that a great retrospective required more than one or either of us could do, and that to join forces and to pool our energies to create something larger and appropriate was really necessary at that point. Beyond that, we really didn't know how the show was going to turn out or what we'd do. So it was indeed a great leap of faith, and indeed for the first several years, I think it would be fair to say, and I'm sure Adam would agree, we still didn't know what shape it was going to take and how it was going to turn out. But in both cases, we've had wonderful curators working on this individually and together. And the key for me was to maintain my belief in a project that would unfold over time and turn out to be really something quite extraordinary. And I must say that belief has been fully justified. One of the lenders to the show has been asking me for the past 4 years if and how this is going to work. We think it does, and does so quite wonderfully. And he, of course, will find out when he visits the exhibition here and in Philadelphia early next month. So taking their cue from the visual themes that have been central to the work of Jasper Johns during the course of his career, which now spans nearly 7 decades, these two exhibitions not only mirror, but also double each other, bringing his paintings, sculpture, drawings, prints, and multiples together in ways that offer a remarkably broad and integrated picture of John's work and how it has unfolded over time. We can think of no better way to convey a sense of his remarkable achievement or to honor him in this, his 91st year. We hope that you and our visitors will find this, a landmarked exhibition in 2 major museums, a rare and rewarding experience. Both the Whitney and the Philadelphia Museum of Art, as you have heard, have brought to the task at hand long and deep associations with the artist and collections that richly illuminate his relationship to the world of art in the U.S. and abroad. The Philadelphia Museum of Art has collected and exhibited Johns' work for many decades, including the presentation at the American Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 1988. Our remarkable collection also offers visitors an opportunity to understand Johns not only within the shifting landscape of modern and contemporary art, but also elucidates his extraordinary kinship with and connections to the work of Paul Cézanne and Marcel Duchamp. And as you may know, the visit that Johns and Rauschenberg paid to the Philadelphia Museum of Art in the late 1950s, to see the Arensberg collection and the works by Duchamp in it was one of the turning moments in his career. And in turn, the Whitney's unrivaled holdings in American art provide an invaluable or enviable context in which to locate the extraordinary place that Johns' art holds in our country, which is, of course, another amazing storyline. So I join Adam in applauding our two organizing curators, Carlos Basualdo and Scott Rothkopf. How fortunate we are to have such talented and dedicated curators who not only share a deep relationship with the artist, who have also brought to the project their keen insights and deep understanding of Johns' work, as well as different yet complementary perspectives. And I think that's important to underscore. The two shows do have different personalities, as they should, but they are indeed complementary in rich and wonderful ways. They've done a remarkable job with this, a very complicated task, made even more so, of course, by the pandemic. And I will end by joining Adam in thanking the many lenders to these two exhibitions. Indeed, there are many, more so than usual, and they have been unfailingly generous and cooperative in sharing works from their collections with us. They recognize the importance of the project, and they too stayed the course. With their help, we have managed to assemble a retrospective of the work of Jasper Johns that is unsurpassed in its depth and in its breadth. As such, it renders an extraordinarily rich and complex portrait of the artist's accomplishment, and is a true gift both to those who already know Johns' work, as well as, and this is the important point for me, a gift to those who will be seeing much of it for the very first time. So thank you. We're delighted to be here with you this morning and look forward to speaking with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Timothy, and thanks to all of you for coming this morning. It's so thrilling to be back in a space together. This is Carlos, my co-curator, Carlos Basualdo. I'm Scott. You can see my name very big there. Maybe we can go back to a work of art or something more attractive. Oh, perfect. What we did in Philadelphia, we're going to reverse here. There, Carlos gave the majority of the remarks, and I, finished certain sentences and thoughts. It's funny, we have worked so closely together over the past 5.5 years that I think we are now finishing each other's sentences, but perhaps in slightly different ways than each of us would have imagined them ending, which has been one of the great joys of this collaboration. So I'll just also as a program note, we're not going to talk a lot right now because there's so much art to see and so many of you are standing, but we will attempt an in-person brief introductory tour at 11:30 for those of you who can attend. We're going to have to be mindful, obviously, of the number, so we'll see if we can make that work just in the galleries. We don't want people too close together. I'm delighted, as I said, to welcome all of you back. This has been a remarkable and long and complicated undertaking, and we really could not have got to this point without the steadfast support, determination, and trust of our two directors, Timothy Rubb and Adam Weinberg. We are both really lucky to work with people who are so visionary and will support something that seems kind of like an audacious experiment. We don't really know how it's going to end, but they stood with us the entire time, and so did our boards of trustees, and also especially our staffs at both museums. We're not going to name people by name because truly this was such a large collaboration that it involved people from every team of this museum, whether it's the front of house or the publications or the people raising funds, et cetera, et cetera. It was just incredible to see both of these teams working so beautifully together on different coordinated challenges. And it was something really moving for me when we were installing the show at the Whitney to see the art handlers, some of whom have installed these works many times before, the Three Flags, let's say, and the kind of sense memory in their muscles as they move these objects. This is what it means, I think, for an institution to truly care for an artist's work. Collections are not just trophy cases, but places and repositories of knowledge that live inside of people as much as things and archives. And that was something really special. We saw it also when Philadelphia came with their courier and installed the catenary from their collection, I Call to the Grave, which you can see upstairs. And it was just a remarkable collaboration in every respect. I think that before I thank Carlos and Jasper, I'll say a few introductory words about the exhibition, although Timothy and Adam have already said quite a lot. As you know, this project began about 5.5 years ago, almost by chance, out of our mutual interest, the two of us, Carlos and I, as well as our two museums, to embark on a project in celebration of Jasper's 90th birthday. As you also know, he's now 91, and then the different things intervened. But we began talking and thinking about how we could make something like this work, and we decided kind of early on that it wouldn't make sense to do a show that traveled from one venue to the other. The loans were too dear and our city's too close, and also the space would not allow us to celebrate the full depth of Johns' achievement. And it was Carlos's brilliant, audacious idea that we should try doing the show in two places at the same time. They both opened to the public September 29th and closed on February 13th, and that simultaneity was a key concept to the exhibition. As you've heard, there are more than 500 works in this exhibition spanning from 1954 to 2021. The most recent print in the print wall upstairs is dated from this year, and I think that's really an important touchstone for us because it shows that this is a living artist. I think we both had a goal, an idea in mind to present this work and this artist not as someone you might know from history books or slide lectures in college, but really as an artist who is alive, that there would be a sense of discovery and curiosity about his work, and that people who know his work very well would see new things for the first time, and that we would also be introducing a new generation to this incredible oeuvre. We then had to struggle a little bit as to how we would make sense of this organization. And as Timothy mentioned, the kind of idea eventually emerged from Jasper's work itself, his long-standing interest in mirroring, in doubling, in works in black and white and color, paired objects, symmetrical objects, which you see, many of which you see upstairs. And we had this idea that we would present two parallel narratives centered around basically 10 pairs of galleries, each of which articulated the same idea with two sets of examples. As Carlos put it yesterday, the idea is, the theme of this show is not mirroring. That's the organizing principle that structures the exhibition. So when you go upstairs, you'll see galleries that each actually indicate their echo or mirror gallery in Philadelphia, and that happens in both places. So a viewer here coming to a gallery about the idea of place, where Jasper has lived and worked, will see a gallery about South Carolina. In Philadelphia, they will see a gallery about Japan. Or we will present in each place a gallery exploring how Johns himself made an exhibition in the 1960s at the Leo Castelli Gallery. At the Whitney, that gallery is 1968 exhibition. In Philadelphia, it's an incredible gallery celebrating his 1960 exhibition. So any viewer to one venue or the other will encounter the same 10 concepts or lenses on Jasper's turn of mind, if you will, but through, as I said, different examples. I know it sounds a little complicated, but I think it will make sense. And the catalog is really a remarkable opportunity to see both shows in a way side by side. We thought of it as a third site. We also thought of it as a place where we would invite different voices to the table around Johns' work. We were coming after the incredible monumental efforts of the recent catalog raisonnés of drawings and prints and other excellent exhibitions in London and Los Angeles curated by John's specialist, just to call her a specialist, that doesn't even seem the right term, Roberta Bernstein. So we thought that in a way, we didn't need to do something that felt perhaps as definitive and maybe sort of traditional, but that we could then be really free to kind of open the doors of the barn, let air blow in, bring new voices to the table, and that was really the goal with this catalog. So finally, I will cede the floor to Carlos, but I do want to thank just 4 more people. First of all, I said I wasn't going to thank our staff, but we do have to make an exception for Sarah Vogelman and Lauren Young, our 2 curatorial assistants. Please raise your hands, and if anyone has any questions about this show in the press, you should please ask them because they will know the answers better than we will. We would certainly not have made it to this point without their incredible insights and hard work. And I want to really thank Carlos. This has been such an incredible journey. I think that word came up already today. I have learned so much from working with you, and it's been the greatest joy of my professional collaboration, the greatest collaboration and joy of my professional life, I should say, to be on this path with you. And, we also really want to underscore what Timothy said about Jasper. Although he sort of, I think, respects a kind of separation of church and state between the work of the curator and that of the artist, which is extremely liberating. He gave us so much freedom to do what we would with his body of work, and that was such an honor and a great sense of trust from him. He also was very involved. He is the single biggest lender to this exhibition. We saw him together in Sharon every few months. He opened his archive to us and showed us things that we had never seen before. In fact, that no one has ever seen before, except perhaps in certain unexhibited works in the Catalogue Raisonné. So it was just remarkable to have this experience with him. And I would say that the galleries have given me, there's many things we could say about Jasper Johns, other opportunities, but two ideas keep coming to the fore when I'm in the exhibition, and they are both evolution and constancy. You see in that body of work such an incredible sense of discovery, of reinvention, of risk-taking, of an artist who has certainly not ever been on autopilot and defies the expectations that his previous work might have set from one body to the next. And that is just an extremely powerful example. We've also seen the constancy, the steadfastness of this studio practice, of someone going to work almost every day, of letting the world in but also tuning it out, and staying true to, I think, his interior life and imagination, and a dedication to a kind of craft and to creating objects that take time and merit it, and that's a really powerful lesson, I think, in an age like ours where so many things are happening so fast, that we can have the gift of his work and these two lessons. So thank you, and now Carlos will finish all my unfinished sentences.
So what I would ask, please, if we can go back to the slide of Racing Thoughts. It's one of the first ones. Yeah, that one. Yes, thank you. Well, of course, thanks to Timothy and Adam for having been courageous and incredibly supportive. I want to say that I chose this slide because last night I was at the hotel at the Standard close by, and I woke up, I think it was like 3 o'clock, and I couldn't stop but thinking about the images of both shows, of the Whitney and Philadelphia. It was Racing Thoughts. And you know, Jasper, when he made this work, he was seated afterwards right next to a psychologist, and he described his state of mind. And he says, well, he said, you know, I have images in my head, and they rush into each other, and I cannot get rid of them. And he said, well, that has a clinical name. It's called Racing Thoughts. So I woke up. I didn't know exactly where I was. Was I in Philadelphia? Was I in a nightmare, or was I in a dream? But certainly I realized then that the two projects are so incredibly different, and they have precisely the same framework. And you can feel that. It's almost like the David Hammond structure outside. You know, it's like so powerful. It's like ghosts are so powerful. And that's a very powerful ghost. And the structure of this show, what Scott referred to, is a very powerful ghost that will haunt and continues to haunt, haunts both exhibitions, and I think it will continue to haunt the viewers, hopefully in a nice way. But I also realized that the scope of the ambition. I mean, it was coming to the Whitney and seeing these truly glorious spaces of the exhibition here, and the wonderful installation, and the amount of extraordinary works after being immersed in the extraordinary works in Philadelphia for 3 weeks, that it's just breathtaking. And I realized that Scott and I were like, like fools rushing, we're angels. I mean, like complete fools, because this is, goes beyond imagination. He really is a towering figure, but towering is not the right word. And yesterday, I spoke about a mountain. I spoke about, maybe that's the way in which we should talk about Jasper. I mean, Jasper Johns is a mountain, but he's not a stable mountain. He's an imaginary mountain. So every time that you go about it, it's different, really. And I think that's what Scott and I said to do, almost without knowing. I mean, we said to be mountain climbers, and we said to explore some aspects of this ever-changing landscape and give view, because that's the most important thing. give you a sense of that ever-changing landscape, but also give you the sense of the enormous magnitude of Jasper Johns' accomplishments. Now the question remains, we were joined at the hip doing this, we really were, sometimes fighting for water, sometimes fighting for food, sometimes hunting for each other, many times hunting for each other. And the question is, did we get to the top? It's an imaginary mountain, and mountains, as you know, were sites of pilgrimage. Have been for ages and ages sites of pilgrimage. That is why we try to establish these two locations as, hopefully, for this month, sites of pilgrimage. Did we get to the top? I don't know. You don't know. You might know. I don't know if we got to the top, but definitely we felt the breezes. But definitely we saw the light. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's any further notes from, no, I'm getting, please, this is the end of our program. Join us in the galleries upstairs. Thank you.